welcome back. It's early morning. I didn't start early enough. They're having a pancake breakfast and shoot across the street, so it's gonna be loud during the video. We've got our spring melt going on here. The geese have been flying, and I'm looking forward to spring. I'm still pulling a little sap. I think I've got about 15 more gallons I want to boil down. But we're back on the old Ford here, and I want to finish this project up. What I've got is, if you remember, I charged the battery the other day. I haven't been using the truck for a couple days. I charged it overnight to a full charge, haven't touched it. So I want to check battery voltage before I disconnect it. I want to make sure we have 12.6 plus volts in it, and should be around 12.66, I think. But I want to make sure that the battery is good. We're on to this field wire. I was hoping when I ordered the plug that you get the complete thing, but you don't. You only get the 6-inch. We did inspect the wires. I left them out from the other day. So we got to pull our air horn off here for an intake. We got to disconnect the plug at the alternator. I want to pull the plug up here so I can reach it, and I can't pull it all the way out of the vehicle because the red wire is still there, but we can bring it up here, and we're going to solder a new end on. The reason is I leaned on that the other day, and the alternator was really quiet. That's why this alternator little saga thing going on here is like, what is wrong with this thing? You know, it's loud one day, quiet the next. I don't know if it's charging and then not charging. And when it's not charging, the alternator's quiet, you know. And when it's charging, it's really working hard to charge this battery because possibly a field connection. But I leaned on that connector, and it started charging really well. And I was like, is it the regulator loose? Is there a connection problem? Is it... I, took the alternator apart. I inspected it. I couldn't see anything wrong physically with the alternator, and the bolts are tight and everything on it. And so I put the alternator back on, fired it up. It sounded good. I leaned on that wire, and it started charging because it started like squealing. It's like working hard. This has a new belt on it, and I didn't know if somebody said, well, it's probably your belt. Well, when you put a load on it, yes, it would put more load on the alternator, making the belt work harder. But the belt has no cracks in it. There's no belt dressing, no goop on it. The pulleys all feel good. They all feel free. And, I don't feel any bearing noise. But that alternator sounded dry. I have purchased the alternator, a new one. If I'm going to put that on there, I will. But I want to start with that connection. So I think the smart step is to check the battery voltage. If we're at least 12.66 before we start anything, the truck's been sitting a couple days. It rained last night, so everything's all damp here. But I want to check the charging system. So we'll check the battery. If we're good, I want to start it up and see if it charges. I think these have a little delay built into the computer where it doesn't charge on startup. It just gradually comes up. I want to check that voltage, and then if everything seems fine with that, then I want to replace that connector. I'll use some solder seals, or I don't remember the brand I got, but whatever I got there. And then we'll probably put some heat shrink over it. And then I want to put that back in that wire loom, tape it up, and get this all set. We did replace this fuel pump relocation kit, and that was obviously burnt. And could have been part of our running problem. We still have this thing going on here. There's a heater core flush kit on here, but look we got a little bit of antifreeze dripping on that coil. It's kind of a bad spot right there. I have flushed this, I don't know, a couple years ago over there in the jug. It's pretty clean, so I don't feel it needs another flush. But I might pull this connector out and then put in maybe a 3/4 PEX or something and tighten that up and use it on these clamps. That fitting is a Prestone, and it's plastic. And I was going to replace the heater hose, but this style goes all the way inside the truck, so it's a major ordeal. So I guess I want to fix that because we can't have liquid dripping on the coil. And we'll get started on this. So we got the little Craftsman one out here. We'll put it on a 20 volt DC scale. I want to check and see what we got. Sometimes you can jam the leads in here where you don't have to hang on to them. Sometimes. I should get some alligator clips. Alright, we've got low voltage. If this is accurate, we got 12.1. A little hard to read this thing because it got burnt once, but 12.1415. That is 12 volts. It'll start the truck, but that battery is not fully charged. I think if there's a bad diode in the alternator, you can get a noise from the alternator and it can discharge your battery. The other day when I took that alternator off, about 2 hours after I had come home, it was very warm, like I had just run the vehicle. The upper radiator hose was cold, and that alternator was still hot. Didn't think much about it, but it could have been drawing the battery down with like an internal short. So 12.15, that is not enough. So what I want to do is I'll grab the key and I'll fire this up and we'll check the voltage running and see. It'll probably ramp itself up. Sorry about the background noise. This is out of the way. And it's 12.15. So let me go fire this up. I don't know if you can see that. Let me turn this. That way I can review it back too. 12.15. Let me fire this up and see what happens. We'll see it together, right? Did that ramp up right away? I didn't see it. You did. 14.4. The water's dripping off the hood onto the manifold down there. What that steam is. Now that alternator sounds normal to me. The other day you heard it, it was very loud. I'll let this run about 2 or 3 minutes. We'll get it warmed up good. And I'll watch the voltage. And I'll listen for that noise. So this has been running about 5 minutes. It's starting to warm up good. The voltage has not changed like a half a volt here. It has not changed. I can hear the alternator starting to whistle a little bit. I put it under more load. High beams on, heater on, heated seats on, blower on. Any other accessories I can think of is on. This alternator can handle this. So the only thing I found so far is that the battery was 12 point, I got to review the video, 12.1 something. Wasn't 12.66. Could have an issue with the battery starting. It's 4 years old almost, not quite. It should be a 5-year minimum on these batteries now. It's 1000 amp at 32 degrees and I think 850 at 0, whatever it is, I don't know. And so it's the heaviest battery I could find. The engine's running really good. It starts easily. I don't know if you can hear the alternator. It is singing a little bit now. Very possible it could have a bad diode or something. But I can't prove it, and I just hate putting parts on it. I want this thing reliable, and I don't, you know, we had that issue where we just about broke down about, I think it was about 75 miles from home, and I do not want to tow that far. But I think what I want to do is we recorded this. We can see that we got 14.3, 14.4 under load and no load. I want to replace that ground wire. I'll make up something. We'll find a spot to mount that, even if it's just to, it could be to the alternator bracket, it could be to anything. It doesn't matter as long as it's a ground to the engine, a ground up there, because that lead up there, you know, is empty, and I just recently noticed that. I was hoping that one of you would comment and say, hey, check this. This is a reason why you might be eating alternators. This is a King Ranch model, and it's got all the toys. There could be a parasitic draw bringing that battery down, but it wasn't enough to make it not start. So I probably should disconnect the battery cable without it running and put a amp between it. I want to find out what kind of voltage we got going between it. And I don't know. I hate just throwing an alternator on there because it sounded loud once or twice. So your guess is good as mine. I want to go ahead and replace that field wire, so I'll shut her down. We'll pull that out. We'll use some solder, seal, whatever they call it, connectors, and maybe some shrink wrap over that too, and then put them back in the wire loom. Get all these wires cleaned up. And this is after the engine's been running about, I don't know, 7 minutes anyway. It's warm, it's blowing heat in there. We got 12.7. So to me, the battery does accept a charge. I probably should watch that a while, but I'm going to go ahead and disconnect it. See it drop down to 12.69. So to me, it looks like the battery takes a charge. There could be something drawing it right now. So maybe what I'll do is I'll disconnect the negative battery cable because I want to do the field wire, and I'll put a voltmeter between the two and see if we have 12 or more volts. So the cable disconnected, it's 0 volts. The battery is 12.6. Hard to read the last numbers. 5 maybe. I'm going to put a meter between the negative and the negative post. 11.4. So to me, if it's less than 12 volts, that means that we're not pulling a draw on it. Probably I should get out. I got a battery load tester. I know it's just Schumacher. I can't remember the brand. Milton maybe. And load it down. It's one of those that you do for at least 30 seconds or whatever, and you watch the voltage on a full charge battery. Make sure it doesn't drop below like 10.5 or whatever. Follow the gauge. I could do that and then recharge it. But let's go ahead and I'll pull this assembly apart. I left the clamps loose, and we'll pull that off and do the alternator for now. So we'll pull this connector off. Bring this up where we can reach it. And then, because our red wire is connected to it also, we can't pull it away from the vehicle because there's no disconnect here, just on this one. And so the new one, this is Digipart, but the Ford number is there. This is like $9 or something. If you get it at Ford, it's much more. They look exactly the same. But probably what I'll do is, these are definitely much shinier than these are. What I should do is shine a bright flashlight in there, because these terminals look like they're opened up just by looking at them. This one has a tab that bends down, and it's very close together, and this, they look hollow down in there. And remember, I pressed down on this and I leaned on it and it started charging better, and I thought that the purple wire, I think it was a purple wire, one of these was pushed way back. Might have been the red wire, but I think when I was pushing on it, I could move this in and out quite a ways, like that. And I don't want to gamble, so I thought I'll put this on. So we'll strip this back. We'll strip these back. We'll use a, let's see what I got here. So I think they're just some cheap solder seal. Yeah, they're solder seals. We'll get the right gauge out. We use these on a couple projects, and you just heat them up. The solder melts. You heat shrink them in, and they're basically waterproof. They work pretty good. So I'll do that, get things out. Well, I got my wires stripped. I've got them, I opened them up, I slid them together, I twisted them around. They're pretty strong, just tugging on them. I've got some shrink wrap that's not necessary, slid back. I've got my solder seal connectors. We'll slide it down. Hopefully it fits good inside there. Center that with that little bit of solder right there. Looks good. Now we take a heat gun and we'll just heat it up. Can you see that? I guess so. We'll heat that up until that solder melts. You want to use your high setting and you want to concentrate on the center solder. And when it turns shiny, it's melted, you're done. And then we'll just heat the edges and let it seal up. We'll just watch that. And it should melt and flow right around there. Starting to get shiny. It's a little cool this morning. It's about 40 something out here. Probably if I was inside it'd be a little quicker. I don't know if you can see that getting shiny. Just starting to flow a little bit. Okay, I can see it flowed right there a little bit. Don't want to overheat it, but I want to melt that solder, get a good connection so we can't tug these apart. And then we'll just melt the ends on here so it seals up nicely. Some people use a little torch, but it's hard to control the heat sometimes. I think we about got that one. We'll check one at a time here. Make sure it flowed in there nice, which it looks good. See, it melted out. Sometimes hard to know when to stop, right? And then we'll go on to number 2. Get that lined up in the center. Hear the birds? Boy, spring's fast approaching. I put a little bird seed out. It's gone one day. I filled up the feeder. It's gone. It's starting to melt. The heat feels good on my fingers. A little chilly. See my breath. I've got about 25 gallons of sap burned down, and I've got almost 3 quarts, I think, of syrup. I only want to do about a gallon. We don't use that much of it. Not much of a pancake eater, but it is kind of cool. So it should warm up the next 2 days in the 40s, and so the sap should be flowing nice. And I think next week is going to get up in the 50s, so the sapping might be done with. So I'm happy if I get another 15 gallons of sap. Finish boiling that down. We'll start off on the wood stove. See that melted? That looks pretty good. And I want to get 1 gallon of sap, and then we want to have a family breakfast. We'll get everybody, and someone will bring some eggs, and someone will bring some ham, and I'll have some pancakes and syrup. We'll have us a family breakfast, kind of a cool thing. That solder melted nicely, both sides. Looks great. We'll go on to number 3. Slide this one up. Get it to line up right in the center. And it looks like, see that? It looks like a little heat went over to this and closed that edge up a little. I might have spoiled this solder seal. See that opening? So I think I can still use it by pulling this wire apart. We can. See, that's pretty tight together. Take this solder seal, slide it on the opposite end, or back on this end, but I think I got a little too close with the heat. Just slide that down on there. And like I said, there's different ways. Some people wrap them tight and all kinds of different things. It doesn't matter, I don't think, when you're soldering, as long as they're grouped good together. I'm going to spread this open, and I'll sandwich them together like this, and then I'll twist them opposites. Opposites attract, right? Yeah, the shooting sometimes annoying. It's usually only on one day, and today's breakfast day. It's the beginning of the month, right? Yeah, Sunday. And we went over it before, and it's pretty good clan over there, and have some pancakes, and then they go out and shoot little trap. So see, that's tight. I mean, you got to really pull to get that apart. We'll slide this up on, get that centered. See, we saved it by doing that way. And we'll get this one on there. Then I want to get this back in the wire loom, get it taped up, and then test it again. And I'm going to have to check this battery out. It may not pass a load test. I don't know. It started all winter and it starts, you hear it. After it sits a few days, I checked the voltage drop there or whatever, and it's under 12 volts. So to me, that's not drawn, but I'll do a little more research on that. I want to load test it, see what the voltage is under 30 seconds, and then I'll recharge it again. Yeah, solder flow, that looks pretty good. Don't overheat it. And then that looks really good. And then I got this extra heat shrink I want to put over that connection. And we'll heat each one of these on there. Extra protection. See if they'll melt down enough. Kind of a little bit too big, but we'll see. Another layer of protection so we don't get a short anywhere in the wire loom, you know. I got to get some new ones with the sealant inside of them, the waterproof ones. But this will help for abrasion. Definitely better than electrical tape. That's on there. And then it's probably one size too big, but that's what we got. Run what you got. I do like hearing the birds. And the old kitty cats there, tiger and squirrel, they like the birds too, so I don't want to feed the birds and then let the cats out and let them chase a bird. That happens. Yeah, these are a size too big, but Better than nothing. They'll still stay on there. And then they don't move, so that's all I care about right now. Because these are pretty good connection anyway. And they're covered. We're just double covering. So I think, like I said, I want to put this back in the wire loom, get it taped up. I'm going to get the load tester out here and test this battery. We'll put this connector back on and test the charge of the alternator. We had 14, look it up again, but 14.4 or something. And I want to do that ground cable. I want to make up one of them, put some ends on it. I don't know if it's necessary, but I didn't see them in the book where it had engine ground, body grounds and things, but there's an extra one there I'm worried about. I want to do what I can to make this thing the best I know how. I don't want to break down with it. So now these, if they're in the wire loom, they have double protection on rubbing or anything. Put that cardboard there so we're not near anything. So that's our decent repair. And the end of the clip, these are definitely a lot closer together, so they should snap onto that regulator really well. And then we'll move on to the next step here. I'll finish cleaning all this up and we'll test it, and I'll get the load tester out here. Probably have to grab another cup of coffee. Okay, I spent a few minutes putting the field wires in the loom, taping it up, bringing it up, putting it on the clips so it stays stationary. Pulled this clip out, taped that on so this doesn't move around. So that's looking pretty good. Got this all back together. I brought out the Milton. It's a 1260 battery tester, and this is going to load test it and load volts. I think we're going to do probably 10-15 seconds and see what the voltage drops down to. Let me set this down. So I hooked it up and we've got 12.24. It's almost 12.5 volts to start with. We knew that it was 12 point, I don't remember now, 1 something on the meter. So this is pretty close. We're on a 12 volt scale. I don't know if you can see that. Here's the gauge. And we want to put a draw on it to get this. This will get red hot, be resistance. And we want, it would be nice if it stayed on a 1000 amp battery up here in the green. But probably it's going to be between 10 and 11 volts. And what I like to do is draw it down. This gets red, release it, and then see how quick it pops back up to 12 volts. So I don't know if this is a good test or not. We'll see. There's 11.2. Staying at 11. See, it's not continually dropping, so it's not a bad battery. This thing's getting warm in my hand here. It's staying right at 11 volts. Should be cherry red here in a second. See how hot that thing is? It's hot. It feels like a heater. Now I'll let go. See how quick it climbs. It's up to 12 volt. 12.1. Now this is an analog gauge, so I don't know how accurate it really is. It's like 12.2 now, almost. But my guess is the battery is still okay. I don't always trust these little meters, you know. I should get a decent meter. I guess I could bring out the Fluke there and test that, but we're up to 12.2, so it went right back up to where it was. When the batteries are bad, it'll drop right down and it'll kind of stay down. It's all done until you charge it, try to get a charge in it. So I think we're good. So what I want to do next is hook this battery cable back up. We're going to check the charging system. one more time with our new field connector, everything all hooked up. We'll see what we got here. Well, I'm sorry about the noise in the background. It's Fun Day Sunday. What I did is I had a heavy 12 gauge wire right here. I ran it up to this computer ground. I couldn't even get that bolt out up there. I think it's stripped out. So it's right up to this computer ground, which this is grounded to the same cowl area. And I went over to the alternator bracket. And so that's on nice and tight. And that's going to probably take care of wherever that ground went. That was something I was worried about. The next thing is I took this Prestone flush adapter out, and it was dripping right onto that first ignition coil, cylinder 1. I didn't have a number 1 misfire. We had the number 3 back there, and the barb on this looks okay shape. I don't see a crack, but look, see, it's been like seeping for a long time. So I put a brass PEC style Apollo barb in there, 3/4 inch, and it looks like it's working great. I'll run it, check it, but I don't want that, dripping. I never had to add any antifreeze, but it, a little seeping on that coil is not good. I just sprayed it off for brake clean, and so I think that'll dry up pretty quick. And so I got my ground on. I got that barb connector replaced. I've got my wires taped up, put back in the loom. I got the connectors taped on, snapped in, hold everything down. I've got my, I load tested the battery. I think it's okay. I brought out a different meter. It's 12.3 volts. So to me, it's still pretty low. But let's fire this up and test this out. Sorry about that background noise. So all I did was turn the key on. See, she dropped. Of course, this parking lights, everything comes on right away, but we got 11.9. So let's see what that jumps right up to. We'll start it up and let it run a minute. $14.49, that looks pretty good. Oh, you got a little glare there. $14.52. That seemed like a little bit extended crank time. That was a few seconds, but I'm not sure. That might happen when we disconnect things. I can hear the alternator. It's not super loud. I don't know how you can pick that up on camera. I'm still not convinced this alternator's bad, so I might keep the new one in the box for a couple weeks, and if this doesn't act up, I'll return it. Maybe we had a bad ground, maybe something else is going on, multiple problems here. See how steady that is. I'm going to go ahead and turn some loads on, put the heated seats on, turn on the blower, turn the headlights on high. You hear the little bit of whistle in that alternator. It's working, but it's holding that. We replaced that field wires, and one is the communication wire to the alternator. One is coming back. Now the alternator's getting louder. Hear it? Maybe I should bring an amp clamp out and put on there, see how many amps it's putting out, not worry about volts so much. I'm going to run this a while, and I'm going to get her up to temperature. We'll check that coolant hose there going to the heater core, make sure that doesn't drip. And I'll listen to this, and I might go on a test drive. So she's still charging 14.48. I got some old school amp meters here. This is a 0 to 75. I'm going to set that on there. I don't know if you can see that. That's about 26. This one here is a starter alternator, and this says about 25. They look like this is a Milton, this is a Hoyt. I'll put one on the negative cable here and one on the positive. Let's see what we got again here. And on the back side is your directions. Starter cable groove, and then this is a generator cable groove. So I get in pretty close on it, I guess. A little bit different than this one. I pulled away a little bit. Hear that alternator? Yeah, she's up to almost 30. Let's see if I can get this one down tighter. This one is, yeah, see, we're up now. We're charging more than we were. If I get this down tight, really tight. Check this out. We're putting out about 50 amps here right now. Let me put the other one up there, see if it reads about the same. I got a amp clamp, if I can find it, I could put on there. Put this on really snug fit to the wire. This is up 40, that's almost 50 amp. So that alternator's putting 50 amps into that. Let me go turn the accessories off and see if it changes. Well, the alternator quieted down. Let's see what she's putting out now. Definitely dropped way down. That's 5, 10, 15. It's about 18 amps. Let's see if this one will read. A little bit under 20. So these two seem to be pretty accurate. So with more accessories on, it's asking for more power, but we're 14.59 steady. I guess I'm not going to replace an alternator. What do you think? That's not even moving. Let me go turn the headlights on and see what that does again. I gotta trust everything here. Yeah, I think I can trust it. On the load, she drops down a little bit. I said about 18 amps or so. This is 55, 50. This is a little harder to read, but 50. They're about the same. About 50 amps going into that. So we're asking a lot for that alternator right now, and it's not screwed. Nice and warm in the truck. I'm kind of chilly. It's only in the 40s. It's supposed to get up to about 50 today. So 14.59 again. I don't know what to say, guys. Connections might have helped, the ground might have helped, the little different things we did there, definitely improving this. Our wire harness clips are on nice. The alternator's quiet now, there's no noise. The belt I said was new. It is a Daco brand, but it's a new belt tensioner. All the bearings on the pulley seem tight. The AC and the power steering felt good, and also the water pump. I can't really explain what that noise was. I thought maybe a diode in the alternator. I was wondering why we've been going through so many alternators, whether it's a bad ground or what was going on here, you know. I'm happy to say I'm going to go test drive this. We got to think of an excuse to head to town. Maybe Dawson will want a shamrock shake or something. But $14.59, I just can't complain about that. I'm gonna let this run, let her charge up good, and I'm gonna move on. I'll keep you posted if I come up with another issue with this. But I got a couple jobs to do. I got another bathroom remodel. Stay tuned. It's gonna be a small one. I think I'm gonna do paint. Probably paint the ceiling in the bathroom, paint the walls, a color blue I'll come up with, and some wainscoting. I'll paint that white, some trim. I'm gonna put down some vinyl plank flooring, you know, R&R the toilet, little baseboard, probably quarter round, and then or shoe mold, whatever, and a threshold. Just kind of spruce up the bathroom that we replaced the toilet in a few months back. Homeowners got rid of the blue Kohler toilet and they went with I think a Project Source brand one-piece style dual flush toilet, and they're pretty happy with that. But the size difference, we went with the higher ADA height, but the base is a little different size, and the linoleum, you can see the gold ring, and they thought it makes the flooring look bad, so they said spruce it up, and it could use a touch up. So that's going to be my next job. I was going to use the car for that, but I might run that down, this down there, and take care of that. That's going to be a couple days probably, and after that we got a plumbing job to do. We're going to try to make a drain go to a different septic portion into a leach field, whatever, and we'll see how that works out. And then we're going to keep an eye on this truck. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you soon, guys. Happy Fun Day Sunday. Little bonus footage, guys. On my little test drive, I came up here, up on top of the hill. There's the famous tower. And over here is Lucille Ball's summer retreat. This was her cottage. Kind of cool. Not too far from the house. And check out that tower. That's probably 300 feet tall. And this is the road that leads up to it. Little rough shape here, guys. Bouncing all over. We got a little dangerous crossing here. A tree went over. Check it out.